All right, let's dive right in. Today, we are breaking down a huge quarter for Wynn Resorts. They've just dropped some seriously impressive numbers. But, the real story here is how they're pulling it off and where they're about to place their next billion-dollar bet. It's going to be good.
So here's the game plan. We'll start with the Q3 scorecard, the big flashy numbers. Then we'll get into what they call the Wynn Premium, which is kind of their secret sauce. After that, a quick world tour of their properties, and then we're going to look to the future, their massive new project in the UAE. And finally, I'll wrap it all up with the key takeaways you really need to know.
The CEO, Craig Billings, really set the tone right out of the gate. He pointed straight to the two heavy hitters this quarter, Macau and Las Vegas. And that's really the perfect jumping-off point for this whole breakdown.
Okay, so let's get right into it. Section 1, the headline news, the stuff that made the front page of their Q3 scorecard.
First up, the big one, total revenue, a whopping $1.83 billion. Now that's a jump of over $140 million from this time last year. It tells us that recovery isn't just happening, it's actually picking up steam.
But, revenue is only part of the picture. The real story here, the headline grabber, is the huge swing in profit. They went from losing $32 million last year to making an $88 million profit this quarter. That's not just a turnaround, that's a massive comeback.
And here's a term you hear a lot in this industry, adjusted property EBITDA. Just think of it as a really clean look at how profitable the actual resorts are, before all the corporate stuff. Coming in at $570 million, it's up over $42 million from last year. That just shows you the core business. The casinos and hotels are just running like well-oiled machines. So those are the what's. Now we got to ask why. What's actually driving these incredible numbers? Well, it all comes down to their core strategy, something they call the Wynn Premium.
See, Wynn's whole playbook is pretty straightforward. They don't see themselves as just a casino company. They're a luxury brand, through and through. They are obsessed with every detail, from the design blueprints to the service you get from the bellhops. It's this focus on five-star everything that lets them charge a premium, and get it.
And if you want proof, look no further. This chart is incredible. It shows the profit per hotel room in Vegas. And Wynn, well, they're not just winning, they're playing a totally different game. They're making more than double what their closest competitors make per room. This is that Wynn Premium in action. It's not just a marketing term, it's a strategy that literally pays off.
Okay, so with that strategy in mind, let's do a quick trip around the world and see how each of Wynn's properties chipped in this quarter.
And of course, we've got to start at the mothership, their iconic flagship property right in the heart of Las Vegas.
Their Las Vegas spot just continues to be an absolute cash machine, pulling in $621 million in revenue. But look at this. The number that really blows my mind is the average price for a room, over $500 a night. In a town like Vegas with so much competition, that just screams brand power.
All right, let's hop over to the East Coast, to Encore Boston Harbor. And get this, it's the only Forbes 5-star casino resort in that whole part of the country.
So Boston's numbers were pretty steady. Yeah, revenues dipped just a tiny bit, but that's not the real story here. The key thing to see is that they're getting better and better at pulling in players from outside the local Boston area. They're building a much bigger customer base for the long haul. And now we've got to cross the Pacific and talk about Macau. It's the biggest gaming market on the planet, and wow, it was the absolute star of the show this quarter. The numbers here are just wild. Between their two properties, Wynn's Macau operations brought in over $1 billion in revenue. In just 3 months, this wasn't just simple growth. This was an absolute explosion of profitability. No question about it, Macau was the engine that powered the entire company this quarter. So with their current spots doing so well, you have to wonder, right, what's next? Well, Wynn is placing its next massive bet in a brand new market, one they've never been in before, the United Arab Emirates. Feast your eyes on this. This is Wynn Al Marjan Island. For Wynn, this project is a total game changer. It's their grand entrance into the Middle East. And this isn't just another hotel. They're building it to be the region's very first true integrated resort. And here is where it gets really exciting. On the left, you see the dream, the rendering. And on the right, that's reality. That's the construction site from just a few weeks ago. This thing is not just a plan anymore. It is rocketing skyward, already past the 70th floor and right on track to open in 2027.
So what's this new resort actually going to mean for the company's money-making machine? Well, this chart gives us a little peek into the future. They're expecting the UAE to bring in 13% of the company's total earnings. It's not just a new dot on the map, it's a whole new pillar for the business, and it's going to make them much less reliant on just Vegas and Macau.
Okay, we've covered a ton of ground, so let's bring it all home. What are the key things you absolutely need to take away from Wynn's incredible quarter?
So here it is in a nutshell. Wynn had an absolute monster quarter, fired up by a booming Macau and a rock-solid Las Vegas. Their whole high-end, luxury-first strategy is paying off both figuratively and, well, literally, with a 25-cent dividend for shareholders. And even though today looks fantastic, they're already building their next big growth engine in the desert.
You know, all of this leads to a much, much bigger question. As you watch this incredible new resort rise from the sand, Wynn is fundamentally expanding its global footprint. So are we just watching them build one new project, or are we actually witnessing the creation of the world's next great entertainment empire? Something to think about. Thanks so much for joining me.